I have allowed Mr. Speaker to ask an urgent question which was sent to Treasury last week relating to problems paying with benefits last week. All members should have already received notification of this. I call Mr. Speaker to ask his urgent question.
Thank you, Mr. President. To ask the Treasury Minister, how many people were unable to access their benefits on Thursday the 5th of December, how it became known, what the reason for it was, what remedial action was taken and what steps have been taken to prevent a repeat?
Call on the Treasury Minister, Mr. Cannon, to reply.
Mr. President, may I once again apologise to the customers who were affected by the events of last Thursday. Clearly, we would never wish to delay payment of benefits, and we will put measures in place so this specific incident does not happen again. May I also take this opportunity to reiterate my invitation to customers who suffer bank charges as a result of the delayed payments to get in touch with Social Security, who will arrange for a payment to cover those charges. And may I also publicly thank the officers for answering hundreds of phone calls we received from customers and for their ingenuity in finding and implementing a solution, such that 70% of payments had been made by 5 p.m. on Thursday evening and 99.8% of payments had been made by just after midnight on Friday morning. Turning now to the specifics of Mr. Speaker's question, I can confirm that 9,850 customers were due payments into their bank accounts last Thursday. We first became aware of the issue early on Thursday morning as a member of the public contacted a staff member at home. The reason that the payments weren't made was that an email prompt to authorise the BACS payment process was sent to an incorrect email address. During the afternoon of last Thursday, we were able to use the EQ Faster Pay facility to make the payments, which should have been made via the BACS system. Furthermore, I can confirm that we made 13 emergency payments of £100 each to customers in the most urgent need on Thursday via post offices. We will be examining all of our controls around benefit and state pension payments and will put in place measures to ensure that the events of last Thursday are not repeated.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. And in asking the supplementary, can I join with the Treasury Minister in thanking the Social Security team for pulling out all the stops to get payments to people on Friday? Can I ask, firstly, with regards to the issuing of vouchers, how did Treasury ensure that there were no double payments? And what measures are being taken to prevent a repeat? I think the Treasury Minister said that measures would be taken, but didn't outline what they would be.
Treasury Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the event of any double payments, they will be corrected with the next payments run. And in terms of specific measures, we are working with internal audit on the processes involved, and resolution will be implemented.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Can I just ask, is there any link between the late payments on Thursday the 5th of December and late payments made to foster carers on the 10th of June, 8th of July and the 29th of October?
Treasury Minister, reply.
Well, as far as I am aware, Mr. President, as far as I am aware, this was the first time that a specific human error had been involved in a delay to payments. Members will appreciate that occasionally technical issues do occur, either with banking processing systems or with our own IT systems. And in those eventualities, we obviously need to prepare, but they cannot necessarily be foreseen.
Honourable Member for Ramsey, Mr. Hooper.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's astonished to learn that the entire Isle of Man benefit system can be brought crashing down by a single point of failure. That speaks to me to a more fundamental issue within some of the control systems. I'd just like to ask the Treasury Minister when the systems and controls in place around benefit payments were last reviewed by internal audit, and whether this review that he's now undertaking will be done again by internal audit, by the Treasury Minister's own team, by an external expert. Who is it that's doing this review as well?
Minister to reply.
Well, I don't think the system came crashing down, Mr. President. There was a point of failure, but as the Honourable Member knows, the staff worked incredibly hard to rectify the issue. Simple fact is we make the payments by the BACS system. The BACS system takes 3 working days to process, and in this failure of event, we were able to reprocess the format of the transaction and have them paid by a faster pay facility. we are currently examining whether the data can be in fact reformatted on a permanent basis so that in the future we can simply transfer the data were there to be a failure with the back system onto the faster pay system.
Honourable Member for Onchan, Mr Callister.
Thank you, Mr President. I want to thank the Treasury Minister for his very positive response this morning and for the action taken last Thursday to rectify the problem with those payments. Can I ask the Treasury Minister if he's written to local authorities to make sure that no action is taken against tenants that may have missed rental payment deadlines? Thank you.
Minister to reply.
Mr President, we haven't carried out that action. I'm not aware of any circumstances, but if anybody of any member of the public who is receiving payments who has subsequently found some form of distress or problems, I urge them to contact Social Security, and we will do everything in our power to rectify the situation.
Honourable Member Mr Moorhouse.
Thank you, Mr President. Was all the money that was originally paid out recovered, and what checks are in place to ensure that money does not enter some other account if a similar mistake was to happen and then will be unrecoverable?
Minister to reply.
There was no recovery of funds because no funds were actually sent, Mr President.
Honourable Member for Onchan, Miss Edge.
Thank you, Mr President. The Treasury Minister confirmed that details have been sent to a wrong email address. I'm just wondering, can he confirm that there was no breach of personal data?
Minister to reply.
Thank you. It was an internal email address, but it was not the correct email address for the processing of the BACS payment. There was no data breach.
Mr Speaker.
Finally, from me, Mr President, when the additional costs of this error have come clear in terms of overtime, voucher issues, the review and any sort of bank charges that need to be funded, would the Treasury Minister agree to circulate the additional cost that this has cost the taxpayer to members of this honourable court?
Absolutely, Mr President, but my understanding at the moment there's been minimal cost. As at today, we've had no claims for any bank charges presented to the Treasury.
Final supplementary question, Mr Hooper.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I'd like to thank the Treasury Minister for the commitments and the answers he's given already this morning. I'd like to ask him the question that I asked a few minutes ago, is when were the controls and processes last reviewed by the internal audit team, and who is conducting this review of controls and processes that he's mentioned this morning?
Minister to reply.
As I said, Mr President, Treasury officers are working closely with internal audit. Internal audit will provide a report to me and other Treasury politicians tomorrow morning, and we will progress matters from there.